Good evening, my Rabbi Sai. Maharal, Parshas, Toldos, Reb Shmuley, Duhasta. Give him a couple of them. We need for Shul, and we need for Eitan. We need for Moshe in the back, and Moshe's son, Eli. Shufra, on the page, you have two parts. See where it says the word Shufra in the middle? Shufra de Rav Kahana means Shufra de Rav Avo. The beauty of Rav Kahana, Shufra de Rav Kahana means Shufra de Rav Avo. Shufra de Rav Avo means Shufra de Yaakov Avinu. Shufra de Yaakov Avinu means Shufra de Adam Arisha. The word Shufra means the beauty. Shapir, Shapira. Nice, beautiful. The beauty of Yaakov Avinu was like the beauty of Adam Arisha. Pirush, says the Maharal, Ki Adam Nivra B'Tzelem Elokim. The beauty of Adam Arisha came from the fact that he was created in the image of Hashem. And therefore, therefore he had beauty, he had yoifi, and he had hadar, splendor. The Ksivit says, regarding the tzelem elakim, hoid, honor, the hadar, and splendor, and goy tatreu is its crown. Adam's face was hadar, v'hanoi, v'chol minei no v'hadar, who are. When we say ki bi'or panecha nasata lanu, when we talk about the light of a person's face, have you ever noticed in the person you can see if he's happy or sad? Like the Lashon Chazal says, the Torah says, lamu naflu panecha. What does it mean, lamu naflu panecha? Well, your face has fallen. Did your face really fall? What do you mean it fell? It didn't fall. No, the pshat is, I don't see that you're happy. I see that something's bothering you. When you see a person is enlightened, and you see that he's happy and this gishmak, you see that the or panav, that or panav, shteit in Chazal, the or panav comes from the chelik haruchani. It comes from the chelik of the neshama. Like it says, Kiner Hashem Nishmas Adam. That candle is a Nishmas Adam. And when that candle is lit, and it's lit bright, so then you see it on a person's face, and you can see the good mood. But this isn't just stam good, because sometimes a person can be in a good mood for many different reasons. This, we're talking about a level of Yoifin Kedusha, which is Ruchneis. V'zeu or panim she'ei shahayil adam arishon. His face was shining. Like on Shabbos Kodesh, Birchai b'ma'ar panav shel adam. Panim chadoshes balakan. On Shabbos, a person can attend a wedding on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, and you need panim chadoshes. On Shabbos, you don't need panim chadoshes. You know why? Because everybody who was at the wedding has a new panim chadoshes. It's not you don't need panim chadoshes, you have panim chadoshes. All of the attendees now have a new look thanks to the Pnei Shabbos Nekabla. Bircha b'ma'or panim shalom. You got a neshama yisera, you got an under the panim. He has a new panim, and he has therefore a new koyach. The or is shaykh li Yaakov gam came be yoiser. Yaakov Avinu was zeicha to this or like Adam Arishon more than anyone else. Ki ledavishu bilti gashmi shaykh or and gashmias are two opposites. Says Mal, I want to explain. The world was created, Shteit and Rambam, and everywhere. The world was created with four yisoidas. The four yisoidas are afar. What else? Mayim, water. What else? Ruach and Eish. Each one, as the Maharal is about to explain, the hisgashmius, the physicality of the world, was mishtalshal, developed from a more ruchni to a more gashmi. And the mizug, which means the mix of these four elements, is what created a gashmistic world. But within these elements, you have more and less ruchnius. Like when you go more of gray, less gray. Explains the Maharal. Ki l'davashu bilti gashmi shayach ar. Ar is shayach to something which is totally nish gashmius. V'loy, right, v'kshekach tira shekol asher yesh loy chomer yoyse gas hu achor. The more gas it is, the less ruchani, the more thick it is. Ki ha'aretz yesh loy chomer achor shi shchayra. The earth has a thickness and dark. Mayim yesh lahem gas. Water is lighter in a sense, and water is clearer because it's missing the chaymer that the land has. Avir yesh lo chaymer zach yoter. It's even more zach. Is meir gas. It doesn't have the chaymer that the water has. The eish hayasoidi shuhu yoiser meir. It is the most light mipnei chaymrei hadak. V'agalgalim yeshem chaymer dak od yoter. V'kach hey meirim. The sun and the galgalim are even higher, have even less physicality than even Ar. Ar itself is a bria, a gashmiistic bria, leumat, something which is above it. V'kishenimtza. Shekol asher nivdol min hagashmi. The less gashmi that a person is, the less gashmi that an object is, misyaches lo'ar. Shalzeh Amar beperkei Rabbi Eliezer. Shamayim nivru ma'or levusha shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shamayim va'aretz in the sense of ruchani and fizi. Right? Physical versus ruchnius. Shamayim represents something which is ruchani. It's created kaviyachol from the or levusha, whatever that means. Let's bring it down to earth. Lefichach Yaakov Avinu shemalosoi umadregosoi nivdol min hagashmi. Yaakov Avinu, the stories we know about Yaakov Avinu. The fact that Yaakov Avinu fought with a malach and was successful. That means that even a davar ruchani couldn't beat him. The fact that Yaakov Avinu was able to live by Lavan, and again, and every single day that Yaakov Avinu was there, he was able to live a life of yashrus, never getting caught up or lost by any of the distractions of this world. Day and night, he said, Avadati etzloi, and I never did anything wrong, meaning to say he was never schlepped by his Scheiner. Yaakov Avinu shaloi roi keri miyamav. So Yaakov Avinu was the epitome of a human being that was called kuloi kadosh v'tahar. And that's why each of the Avos HaKadoshim have a midah, Mogen Avraham, by Avraham Avinu, Mechaye Mesim by Yitzchak, and the bracha of Ato Kadosh, which is Shaykh to Yaakov Avinu. V'lekach hoya loy panim meiros. And that's why Yaakov Avinu had this madrega, a madrega of or of light. This is what the Gemara and Baba Basra and Baba Metzia means when it says that Yaakov Avinu had shufra, had light, had beauty, had a shine the way Adam Harishon. In the Riyah Kodesh it writes that the Adam Harishon that we're comparing Yaakov Avinu to is not the Adam Harishon ha'achar acharei hachet. Yena Adam Harishon was already a gefallen. The Adam Harishon state in Riyah Kodesh that we're comparing Yaakov Avinu to is the Adam koydem hachet. What's the difference? The Maharal tells us that Yaakov Avinu was like Or. Or can be written in two ways. Aleph Vav Reish and Ayin Vav Reish. Koydem Achet steht in Shloah Kodesh. The Or of Adam Harishon was like or mit an aleph. The neshama was shining, gescheint. His R was aleph vav resh. Like when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, Vayar ki toiv, says Rashi, nismale habayis oira. From Vudas gekommen, where did that R come from? From sein neshama. He was already born like that. This is the or panim of Yaakov Avinu. That's the kedusha. The Brisker Rav, I once heard from my Rabbi, Rabbi Shapiro Scheiner Levracha. He said, David HaMelech, Brisker Rav at Gezok Begin, David HaMelech. David HaMelech was so holy, his kedusha was so big. The Brisker Rav said, Oib David HaMelech kumt rein do and zimmer, vet man alts verbrennt geworden. In English, that means David HaMelech would all be burnt. His kedusha was so big, his kedusha is so holy, his or is so big that anything, Scheiner, that's not mat'im to or. What happens when you take something that's not like or and you throw it into or? It becomes or. It becomes fire. Egvein azay heilig. And that's David HaMelech. Yaakov Avinu was odyoter. Yaakov Avinu, the fact that Adam Harishon koidem achet didn't need to cover himself because his or with an aleph was like with an ayin was or with an aleph. Well, I always give a mashal. You want to know what it's like? You see these light bulbs? They're all illuminated, right? When you shut off a light bulb, you can see the bulb, right? That's the skin of the light bulb. So you can see the R with an ayin. When you turn on the light, when you flick it on, then you can't see the skin anymore because you see the way the bulb is shining. The R with an ayin and the R with an aleph was like the lights on and the lights off. That was the R of Adam Harishon. Far the sin, glow in the dark, nochmerer. Right? Like a concept of going up and nochmer with them. Because glowing is just glowing. This was an R. That was the R that Yaakov Avinu had. Das ist gewesen the R from Yaakov Avinu. R mit an aleph. And that's why his ganze neshama, Yaakov Avinu, Leroy Kerminav, Yaakov Avinu was Kodesh, Ata Kodesh, V'shimcha Kodesh, V'gdoishim b'chol yom yalu chesed, is the mid of Yaakov Avinu. Therefore, Yaakov Avinu was so Kodesh v'Torah, and that's what he says, Ki Yaakov haya Kodesh v'nivdal min ha'chaymer ligamri, Ad she'e Kodesh, v'dvarim eila mevurim b'mekaymes har b'ma'oy. We said over many, many times, Klal Yisrael is known as the Baal Simcha Alein. Wow. Klal Yisrael is known as a heilige folk. Right? We're known as a holy nation. Where do we get our holiness from? The holiness comes Avada from Yaakov Avinu. That's the mid of Kedusha. Kedosh Yisrael. That's the mid of Kedusha. Yaakov Avinu, when he had children, he was mishatev the Eibishter together with him. Shloisha shutfim be'adam. There were 3 shutfim. We said many times, from the Maharal, said from my Rabbi, that a goy doesn't have shloisha shutfim. They don't have shloisha shutfim. They have 2, the man and the woman. When did it start becoming that they're shloisha shutfim in a way that no matter what happens to the child, they'll always have a Yiddish neshama with Yaakov Avinu. When Rivka had the 2 kids, Avada, Segevein Heilig, or Segevein an Esav. Esav chose not to be Jewish, and he was gone. But by Yaakov Yisrael, that's it. You're so connected that there's nothing you can do to sever the ties. Why? Because the Eibishter is a shutaf here. When did that happen? That happened with Yaakov Avinu. That's the expression of the Kedusha of Yaakov Avinu. That he's so holy that the Eibishter becomes a shutaf. Shiftei ka. They're the Shvatim. Ish v'isha. Hey, Sheva Brachas Torah. Hey, and a Yud, right? Suzamen, Ish v'isha. Who's the shutaf? The Yud and the K. Right? And what are they? They're Eish. Because they have a Kedusha. Some people learn it bad because they're fire, because they have, but on the other hand, in the terms of Yaakov Avinu, it's Kodesh V'Tar. Let's do another shtikala. On the page. Take a look on the page, that's on the top part. Now, The Yeshchol Ohaven Oid, about the Kedusha of Yaakov Avinu. Ki kishem shahayu shnei banim li Yitzchak. Just like Yitzchak had two children. Echad noilad b'char, ve'im kol zeh hayasheni achrav noitela b'chayra. You think that's a coincidence? Echad noilad b'char, v'asheni notalas b'char. Kach haya li Yaakov. Yaakov had the exact same thing happen in his kids. His b'char was Ruvain, and the second one was Yosef. It wasn't the second one in chronological order, but the first one from Rachel was Yosef. The first one from Leah was Yaakov. Says the Maharal, it's not a coincidence. Just like the first Bechar, the second one took the Bechaira, so too by Reuven, the first one didn't become the Bechar, the second one did. And there's a reason, says the Maharal. Lekach hoya leYaakov Reuven shenolad bechar v'nasa bechar leYosef. Lekach av shezoch salesh yatsa men Reuven shu noilad bechar nasa bechar leYosef. V'zeu madreges had sniya shehoya barachol. What caused this? It's not on.
It was never plugged in.
Working because I know. Definitely working.
Okay. Kamadrega hanisteres shehi tznius. The madrega of what's known as tznius cannot happen first. V'davar ze eina mitzarat tznius. Katznius hu nister. V'lekach Yaakov shemadregosoi elyon v'nister noilad rishon. V'chein Yosef shenoilad merachel haya berchosoi b'shvil zeh b'nister. She'ein island shoilad bo. In other words, in this world, when something kadosh v'tar comes out, it comes out b'derech shel tznius. It comes out b'derech shel nister, and that's never the first thing that comes out. On the contrary, in the words of Chazal, first comes out a klipa, first you see the outside, and then you have the pre. It's not a coincidence that always the chosen one, the more chashava, was always the one that was not born first. Whether it was Yishmael and Yitzchak, whether it was Esav and Yaakov, or whether it was Eila, Toldos, Yaakov, Yosef. Because Dafka, he wasn't the Bechar, Ergevein, the Tzanua. That's the Madrega Elyoina, which isn't Nisgala right away, which is Nisgala nor Nochdem, which is something that comes from what's called the Mid of Tznius. Says the Maharal, V'i Efshel Farish Yoiser. Ich kann nicht sagen mehr. Aber ein Sach kann man ja sagen. Etwas mir kann sagen. That a person has a Mid of Tznius, that's where all the Midas of the Brachas is found. Tznius doesn't just mean that you walk with your... Tznius is a way of life. Tznius means that nicht alles was man weiß, man sagt für jenem. Not everything that you have to share with other people. The derech of tznius means to say, hatznej lechas means to say a person is pnimi. I'm running out of time, but I want to just say two things. Okay? Number one, we have relations in our lives. We have ben adam lachaveiroi, ben adam lamokaim. We have another relationship. It's called ben adam la'atzmai. It's zichalein. A mensch that everything he has about him zukt fayenem. They see something, post it. Vaz fayenem. There's nothing for yourself. That's part of the mid of tznius. When they tell me, I'm embarrassed to say it over, not by you, Baruch Hashem. Chusin and Kala, they're going into the yichud room. The Kala needs her phone to take a picture and post that she and her Chusin gate that ein, right? So she could post it. There's nothing more lack of tznius. Of course it's not normal, but we live in a not normal world. I'm always to remind ourselves what's normal, what's not normal. I'll tell you, you think that's bad? A bracha becomes a chassan. Yeah? Right? And he wants to show his friends what the kala looks like. That's tznius? What are you showing them for? You want their approval? That's how shallow you are. And what happens if they find her attractive, so then you're happy? Nebuch. That's where we're holding? That's the madreg of kedusha. That's the madreg of tznius. Nebuch.
There's something that you do for Ben Adam La'atzmai, a little self-respect. Zich alein. Do things for yourself, not for others. We live in it, we've developed, and we live in such a world that alts is fayenem. And there's no zich, there's nothing left of a person themselves. The Madrega of Yankov Avinu, the Madrega of Kedusha, the Madrega of Adam, was a Madrega besides for his relationship Ben Adam L'chaver and Ben Adam L'makom. So Ben Adam La'atzmai, metut zachem v'azich alein, and it's nobody else's business. It's for you and meant for you and to stay with you. That's the midah of tznius. And we have to redevelop it. It's in every single yid. That's the madrega, that of madrega of kedusha. It doesn't come out. This is a bissela understanding, something that's exposed. The bechar, the first one, is nicht the midah of tznius. That's not the midah of kedusha. That's not the midah of panimi. And that one's taka not always royu for the bracha. Even though we know bechar gets pishnaim, I'm going to get a bunch of phone calls about all these becharim now. B'shteitin Chazal, that a person has to have yene midah of tznius, and that's the midah of which a person gets a bracha, and the yisoid of that midah is metit fazich alein. It's nobody else's business. The madrega ben adam la'atzmai. So ma'alataka zoicha zayin. The midah is in us. We just have to be aware of it, and we have to develop it, and we have to appreciate it.